Welcome to Tech It Up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with George Kaempf, who is the VP of User Experience from BMC. Welcome, George.
Thanks, Jessica. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here because I would love to learn more about what is this user experience from the enterprise point of view.
Well, user experience in enterprises is usually a lot more complicated than it is in the consumer space. Mm-hmm. We don't design shopping carts, we don't design shopping experiences, that kind of thing. This is really about enabling people to do really complex tasks in complex environments more effectively, more efficiently, so that we provide value to our customers by making things cheaper.
Your users are they software developers, app developers? Because BMC is in the business of helping companies to create technology to reinvent themselves. Right?
You've been reading the market. Run and reinvent.
Yes.
It's all the above. So we provide applications for developers, for architects, but primarily around IT service management. And so the ITSM space, and that's BMC's been in that space for 3 decades and longer. And so it's about enabling large companies, the world's largest companies, to be able to manage these massive sprawling networks and enterprises that they have spread around the world. And so so we support people in doing the tasks they need to do to be able to monitor, detect problems, and manage those problems before they become serious. And also ticketing system. One of our biggest products is Remedy, which is basically a ticketing system that helps companies be able to track issues that have been reported and the resolution of those issues.
So BMC has several products. I mean, there's the variety of the analytics, the digital management services and the Remedy ticketing. So given that there are several products and you're doing user experience across all of them, right, the whole portfolio. Yeah. So what is the mission? What are some of the metrics?
It's some of it's just kind of typical user experience kinds of things, so around usability. And that's sort of bread and butter and table stakes in our business. You have to be able to create products that are usable. But more importantly, in this space, it's how do we provide value to the customer? And for user experience people, that's really the tough thing to figure out is what's the impact on the customer? What's the impact on their business? So if we look at kind of the typical ITSM space, then the IT organizations are almost always in every business they're cost conscious. So IT is a cost center, but not a revenue center, and so they're very focused on making sure that they create the most value for their businesses at the least possible cost. So if we can create applications that help them do their jobs more efficiently, for example, that take less time, that take less iteration, then it helps them save in money and then provides value to their businesses. And one of the newer trends these days is also to look at not just cost, but also you think about really large companies like banks and car companies have now become, they're not just banks, they're not just car companies, but they're much more software oriented. And to a large degree, they become software development houses where they might have thousands of developers building these services that they're now selling. And so it's not just about IT service management, but it's also enabling them to build applications on top of our platforms to enable their businesses to succeed.
Right. Sometimes they create new revenue streams from the technology that they're creating. Yeah.
And so it's sort of this higher order impact that we have. So if we can help them do that better, then and more efficiently, then we become more valuable to them. So unlike consumer software, in this business, the real impact is how you provide value to your customers, right? And so it's trying to figure out what metrics there are. So it's not just about efficiencies. Sometimes it's about enabling, for example, one of the biggest trends is to enable people who are not technically oriented, like business analysts, to when they have a workflow that they need to enable to create. So they need to be able to not build applications, but assemble them from pieces. So they're not technically oriented, and so they're not writing code, but how do you put the components in a place where they can actually just construct an application that they can then deploy to to their users inside their own businesses.
So that means that you can hire people who are less technical to create apps.
That's for our customers.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
we have to be technical.
That's
but,
right.
But,
For the
but what we're
customer.
trying to do is like a business analyst in an HR organization to create an app that would enable them to onboard employees, for example, in a business.
Okay, so how do you do this? This is the challenge, right?
That
What are
is
some of the
the challenge.
tips you want to share to those who are doing user experience?
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, it gets complicated, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I came into this business about 6 years ago now, BMC needed or knew that they needed to have UX engaged in what they were doing. They've been a tech company for a long time and technology driven, but just the market has now driven companies to be much more aware about user experience, and so that it becomes a primary selling point to our customers. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to our customers, therefore it's important to us. And so the trick is coming into a decades-old technology company, trying to convert that or teach that and get it in UX embedded in the culture of the company. And so at first when we came in, we literally started from ground zero. We had I had brought one person over from the way things were, and we've grown since then. But it was a real challenge in this kind of a business to make things happen. And we found that there's 4 things that we need to do. And so the first piece is really around building a team of professionals. Okay.
And you have 50, is that right?
Give or take, depending across the company.
Okay.
And spread around the world as well. So it's trying to create a team of professionals and that across all the skill sets. So for me, that's visual design and production. It's interaction design. It's user research and testing, maybe the key piece, and then a small UI development team as well. So those 4 skill sets make up the team. And one of the things we found is that if we bring professionals in, one of the unique things about this is that they're not only technically competent, but they also have to have the skill and the desire to actually drive change in an organization like this, because that's really difficult to do.
Yes.
And you just have to have a mindset that and that you get personally reinforced by helping people learn and helping people change. And so you bring those people in, and to me, the team doesn't really need to be massive because basically UX is a team sport. It's not a set of tasks you hand over to someone and they pass it over the wall. It really is something that you have to embrace lots of different people from different skill sets and different functional groups. Product management, development, marketing, all have to come together, and they have to think focused on solving user problems rather than on solving technical ones. And so it's what you try to do is to teach other people to do the work, right? And so other people in other skill sets. So the UX team is really a seed that you plant, and then you try to let it grow. But it doesn't need to be a huge UX team to do this. So first thing is get the team in place. Second thing is that you really need to adopt and embed a great user experience process that's married to a really solid agile development process. The two go hand in hand. And so trying to figure out how to not only do the UX process, but it's also about how you marry the UX process to while the company is learning how to do agile at the same time.
So you're working with the engineering team very closely.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. And especially when we get into the build cycles of the products themselves. So product management, development, and the UI, UX design work all goes hand in hand together. So embedding the process is another thing about teaching the business and getting the business to change the way that they do to transform to the modern methods. The third piece that you have to do is you can't build modern experiences on old software. And so it's also about adopting a really modern technology stack to be able to take advantage of what we've learned in the consumer space and the modern user interactions. And so the things that you get off your Android and iPhones and so forth, that you can bring that into the business as well. So it's modernizing the experience that people in IT that'll be really similar to the things that they experience on their phones. Another piece of the technology thing that we found has been really important, and this, is to do at least two things, and one is to get commonality across BMC products. So it's a common look and feel, a common interaction models that we can use, but also to drive efficiencies in the way that we actually build the front ends of our products, and that's to create a design system that has evolved from pattern libraries that we used in the past. One of these problems we really experienced was we initially started to create pattern libraries, and these are really just kind of drawings and without the implementation of various components on the front end, and then you turn these over, you create designs, and you give these patterns to development teams, and they will build the code for you. Well, the problem we have is that, we might have we got one pattern and we got 20 different teams building code to implement those patterns. And, what happens is not only do you get inconsistencies in the way they get implemented, therefore the products look or behave differently, but you also are wasting a lot of engineering resources. And so we took on the challenge with our design system of not only creating the patterns, but also actually creating and implementing the code, so that one team builds all the code for these components and on a open source platform. And then the teams can consume that one implementation of that particular code. So now, not only do they all look and behave the same, but it's much cheaper for us to build. And so that's been a really big step in trying to get commonality across products and get UX in the front rather than behind the development life cycles.
And has BMC departments embrace this change, and have you seen the impact of your work?
It was a challenge at first, right, and to persuade people that it was actually the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But the real selling point in our business has been the efficiencies. So we really do cut down not only development time but development cost by doing this, and so we're going through a real flurry of activity now to get product teams migrated over to the new design system. We call it Adapt, and it's been a lot of fun to watch teams do this. I was in India for the last couple of weeks, and we went over there. We have 3 development teams over there that are migrating from old technology stacks to the new one, so that they can get on to Adapt. And we went over to do workshops with the teams to help them learn how to use the code and ask questions, and we took our lead designer, lead developer over there, and it turned out to be, it's actually great fun to watch people, embrace these things. So yeah, it's over the last 6 months, and for the next 6 months, then there'll be a lot of migration going on.
And what about the customers? What do they think?
Well, when I talk with customers, it's really interesting. I mean, I've been around UX for quite a while, and so just watching the change in the way people respond to it. And in the past, it used to be a nice to have thing, and now it's absolutely you have to have thing. So when I talk to customers, they're really open and receptive and happy to see it. They're happy to see a technology-driven company like this leading the way in our market and adopting modern technologies. And so they love to see that we're doing these new things and what the future's going to be like. So almost all these conversations go really well.
That's good. So it's a thumbs up from the customer.
Absolutely.
I know the analysts also gave you recognition for the UI.
Yeah, Gartner, and put us in the upper right-hand quadrant, and being a market leader, and the primary reason for that was around user experience.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, so we embrace that.
Yes. So what is the next phase of change for you?
I think it's going through this, getting people in a couple of ways, is to getting the technology stack piece aligned and getting people on to adapt, and getting the developers actually contributing. This is an open source internal to BMC. We don't make it public yet, but it's to get the development teams to actually contributing code back, and so that'll kind of put us on an exponential ramp around how large this can grow. And it's not just about components, but it really is an ecosystem around how we design and develop and manage these projects for the various products. And so it's about getting growth across the whole product portfolio. Or this is a growth for me I used to think UX was the solution to every problem, right? Because that was the business I grew up in, and I've had to mature that thinking a little bit. And particularly in our business, is to recognizing, where UX is not the right solution to a particular product. Okay. And so there are those cases, and it really is understanding that in some markets, for some customers, it's not the most important thing.
Okay. And so like the mainframe business might be a challenge.
Parts of it.
Yeah.
But even the mainframe has been an interesting thing. I got to BMC and they talked about the mainframe and the revenue streams and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, there's still a mainframe business going on, because
it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
It's actually, and we have a really good business in mainframe and mainframe related things. But as it turns out, that some of these places, that we've had some serious arguments about this around the fact that their customers really don't care, and around about user experience. They care about the products. The products are leading in right, and so, but the addition of a great user experience on top of that is not going to drive the needle in terms of market share or revenue, and it's expensive to do. When it boils down to things, it is an expensive thing to do. In some businesses, it really drives revenue, and so we get growth and we get better market share. We get better NPS and customer sat scores as a result. But and there are those products where we don't have that impact, and so it'd be expensive without the return. So from a UX side, is getting to the point where you actually recognize the impact on our business, and that then you figure out where to apply the resources. We do have an up and coming opportunities in the mainframe business, and so you asked what's next, and so it's really trying to figure out. We've got part of our portfolio not well done yet. There's a ton of work left to do, but we're on a good path for that. So then the next thing is to figure out, where does UX belong after that? Is it just a product thing, or are there other places that we can have an impact on the business as well? So we're trying to look at some of those opportunities and look at how we might grow a little bit and help in the mainframe business as well.
Well, I think what you've done is going to actually drive growth for BMC, and I know it's been a competitive situation, and so kudos to you for the work and your team. Great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for.
We're happy, and keep people. Success makes happy people, and people are really motivated.
And your sales folks are very appreciative, right? When they demo the solution.
Interesting. Well, they demo the solution. They like for me to come talk and to the customers. An interesting thing. I was talking to. I went into a customer environment in Europe with our sales team, and I can't talk about which customer it was, but there was some friction, right? And customers not really happy, and so I go into a conference room with our sales team, and you've got 3 or 4 people on the customer side, and they're sitting on one side of the table, and there's 4 or 5 BMC people that sit on the other side of the table, and the sales guys talk to their stuff and the technical details, and then I had 15 or 20 minutes to chat. And so this is a CIO of the customer, and I did my thing and talked about what we were doing and what was new and where we were going with the user experience stuff. And after I got done, the CIO, she's just got this big smile on her face, and she says, "Come sit next to me. You're on my side." and so it's that kind of reaction. People are really positive, and technology-driven side of the world that that people are interested in, the human side, and really modernizing and taking on. We're seeing the world through the eyes of the people who use the product, and really recognizing that we're solving our user problems, and we can leverage technology to do that. But it's really seeing through the lens of the user and understanding the problems they see. Yes. And then we can solve those. It's not a technology issue anymore.
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, it's been great. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your tips on UX.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
There you have it, folks. Take it up with Jessica Lee, George Kaempf from BMC Software.
Thanks.